Broadway Limited Imports is a well-known manufacturer in the HO and N-scale spaces. They are one of the few North American companies willing to regularly take on the Herculean task of producing models of steam locomotives. Having been in operation since the early 2000s, BLI has had ups and downs with their model longevity. Some models are really solid, while others have Achilles heels that someone considering purchasing one should take warning of. In this video, I'm going to briefly go over the various product lines that BLI has produced, as well as the general consensus I've been able to cobble together not only from discussions with other modelers, but from my own experiences where possible. Asking a group of model railroaders which electronics or models are the best is a little like walking into a rural bar and asking Ford or Chevy. You'll get passionate yet different answers for different reasons. This is mostly a commentary video, so take it for what it is worth. We'll start with a brand that actually predates the Broadway Limited Imports name. Precision Craft Models, or PCM, locomotives are die-cast metal and generally are regarded as excellent pullers. There is some variation to this, but I once saw a PCM NW Y6B wrangle 3 Walthers cleaning boxcars up a 3% grade without breaking a sweat. Talk about a lead sled. At the time, PCM's go-to supplier for decoders was ESU, and PCM engines with sound generally came with a LokSound 3.5 decoder. While I generally look favorably on LokSound 5 decoders, LokSound 4 and before had a mixed reputation with many US modelers. Some swore by them, some swore at them. A friend of mine who worked repairs at a hobby shop said he saw more blown LokSound 4 decoders come across his workbench than any other decoder maker except for maybe MRC. At the same time, this friend has a PCM engine with its original LokSound 3.5 decoder, and it's still running fine. PCM models were equipped with 21-pin boards to accept the LokSound decoders though, so swapping decoders is usually not difficult if you want to do it. Somewhere in the mid-2000s, a shakeup occurred and Broadway Limited Imports entered the scene, ironically with offering number 1 being a New York Central Hudson. Early BLI models tend to fall into one of 3 product lines: Blue Line, Stealth, and Paragon. Blue Line models were sound-equipped but had no decoder. That is to say, there was a separate sound chip inside the engine already, but for motor control you were expected to install your own mobile decoder. Not too long ago, I saw a friend buy a Blue Line engine, put it on the programming track, and we both scratched our heads for 20 minutes trying to figure out why it would make sound but not move. He later got back to me explaining what was wrong. The original Paragon, now known as Paragon 1, locomotives came in a red box with a sticker on one end that denoted they were equipped with quantum sound. The name is impressive, but that is all that is impressive about quantum, or QSI, decoders. They work generally, but they are not very robust and they are known to blow easier than other decoders. The sounds, by current standards, are lackluster at best. The Stealth models were the Paragon engines, but with a DC jumper plug and no decoder from the factory. It would be up to the end user to install their own decoder in a Stealth engine if they were so inclined. Paragon 1, Blue Line, and original Stealth engines all have a serious Achilles heel, however. The plastic compound used for the main drive gear has, over time, shown itself to have a serious shrinking problem. That means the main drive wheel gear shrinks onto the axle, getting tighter and tighter until it cracks and splits open. When this happens, the gear loses its grip on the axle, and the teeth from the gear tower start jumping the gap. The engine loses power, and the differing distances between the teeth creates a thumping sound and slight binding. A locomotive in this condition can barely pull itself, let alone a train. The Paragon 1 Pennsylvania Railroad M1 482s are especially notorious for this. But I had it happen on an NW J-Class 484. For some of these models, you might be able to get a replacement gear from BLI. In many cases, though, they do not have spares. If they get enough inquiries about replacement gears, however, they will sometimes produce new gears, so you may have to check back with them every so often. If you end up with a model with a cracked gear and BLI cannot replace it, you may have to try to find a place willing to custom make a gear for you. To actually replace the gear, you'll have to press the gear driving wheel assembly apart, replace the gear, then reassemble the driving wheel set while precisely requartering the wheels. If the wheels are reassembled at the wrong angle relative to each other, the rods will bind on the locomotive when it's fully reassembled. In summary, my personal rule of thumb is, if I see a Quantum logo on a Broadway Limited Imports box, I run. We're off to a pretty rough start here. 2 questionable decoders and a rampant gear problem. Considering the issues with the decoders, I wouldn't blame Broadway Limited for saying, to heck with it, we'll make our own. Well, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what they did. Paragon 2 locomotives featured an all-new decoder designed and built in-house by BLI. While I have heard of a small handful of Paragon 2 engines with cracked gears, the problem is nowhere near as prevalent as it is with Paragon 1. Paragon 2 decoders are quite robust and will take a fair bit of abuse. They are not indestructible, mind you. I did once see someone blow up a Paragon 2 decoder, dragging 45 cars around a layout with a 3% grade by itself non-stop for over an hour. If you give the thing a chance to breathe, you'll probably be fine. I have a number of Paragon 2 locomotives, and I am confident in them. With their own decoder platform, Broadway Limited Imports was able to experiment with new features on their locomotives, such as smoke. While neat, the smoke units have been known to melt the locomotive shells in some cases if the heat settings are turned up from factory defaults, and bubbles or blockages in the stack can cause the smoke to back up inside the engine, causing short circuits as the smoke fluid is conductive. To add more features, however, BLI would need to make some changes to their decoder. Small speakers can only produce so much sound. In HO scale, many people have noticed that the speakers on sound-equipped models are not capable of producing the low bass tones that could really give a locomotive a presence. Rolling Thunder is a system by which the decoder can radio its low-frequency sounds to a receiver under the layout to be played by a subwoofer, thus giving the full range of sound. To make Rolling Thunder work, however, the Paragon 2 decoder had to be revised. The result was Paragon 3. Paragon 3 has a mixed reputation among modelers I know. It works, but it is very sensitive to power interruption. Enough of a voltage drop for even a fraction of a second can cause the decoder to shut down. BLI attempted to rectify the problem by offering and later building in support for GoPack capacitor banks, which smoothed everything out when installed correctly. If installed on a Paragon 3 board made before the Revision D boards came out, however, the wires to the GoPack have to be soldered directly to the decoder board. Paragon 3 decoders also seem less robust all around. Of the 8 Paragon 3 steam and diesel locomotives I own, I have had significant decoder-related problems with 3 of them, with a 4th that I have yet to diagnose. It's said that changes were made to the Paragon 3 decoders over the years, but many in the hobby say even the last ones still had issues. A few years ago, Broadway Limited Imports came out with Paragon 4, which has a built-in capacitor bank and more control over lighting features. The biggest complaints I have heard about Paragon 4 is the sound quality. The selection of whistles and bells provided is quite limited in my opinion. The number of selectable whistles and bells on each decoder has not changed since Paragon 2, and the overall framework of the sound system is mostly unchanged as well. The quality of the sounds themselves has increased somewhat, but is still outclassed by other decoder manufacturers. I have a hard time getting the sounds on a Paragon 3 or 4 locomotive to a place I am happy with. This is not unique to Paragon 4, it's just a matter of there being few, if any, major upgrades to the sound system framework from Paragon 2. I haven't heard too many complaints about Paragon 4 as far as reliability goes, though. Broadway Limited Imports, by popular demand, brought stealth models back a couple years after the release of Paragon 4. These are the same models that are offered with Paragon 4, but equipped with 21-pin decoder plugs so that one can easily drop in one's preferred decoder and go to town. For me, I quite like the ability to install my own sounds into ESU LokeSound 5 decoders. If I don't like the bell or whistle sounds that are available, I make my own. For this reason, I am hoping to get stealth models from BLI in future and customize their sounds to my liking. So there you have it, a brief look at Broadway Limited Imports' history and decoder options. What are your experiences with BLI products? Drop a comment below. All I ask is that it not turn into a Ford versus Chevy brawl down there. As always, stay safe out there, and enjoy this great hobby of ours.